capital of a country is usually the largest city where the government of a country functions, where there is the highest court of justice, embassies, good infrastructure, and a lot of people. For example, London is the capital city of United Kingdom simply because it is the most important and the largest city in the country. In the same way, the capital of Japan is Tokyo and the capital of France is Paris, both being the largest cities and the center of political and economic activity in their respective countries. But is this always the case? Actually, no, because the capital of Australia is Canberra instead of Sydney or Melbourne, which are much larger. Similarly, the capital of United States is not New York City but Washington DC, even though New York is more than 10 times larger than Washington DC. There are so many other examples where the capital city is not the largest or the most important city in the country. So, what exactly is the criteria for deciding the capital of a country? Because a capital city in a way represents the nation. So, how is it all decided? Historically, the major economic center of a region or the place where the king resided would naturally become the capital of the kingdom. A good example of this is the city of Constantinople, which served as the capital of Roman, Byzantine, and the Ottoman empires. Constantinople was the largest and the wealthiest city in Europe in the medieval times. But in modern times, the pattern and criteria for selecting a capital city began to change. For example, take Australia. In Australia, there was a rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne to become the national capital of the country. Melbourne had become the largest and the richest city in Australia by that time, but Sydney was the older city with much more history. Due to this fierce competition between the two cities, it was decided that neither of them would be named as the capital, so that, none of them feels bad. Instead, as a compromise, a new capital was built midway between Sydney and Melbourne and was named as Canberra. Today, Canberra is the 8th largest city in Australia, much smaller than both Sydney and Melbourne. An important factor while selecting a capital city is adequate security. The capital city is always a primary target in war, as capturing it would mean the fall of the government. This is the reason why Ottawa was selected as the capital of Canada instead of Toronto or Montreal, because it was further away from the border than other cities. This would make the city much more defensible in case of an attack from the United States. In the same way, Delhi, the capital of India, is at a safe distance from the border and hence the seat of the government is well protected. But some countries like to have their capitals on their coast. In fact, 79 countries in the world have got coastal capitals, but having a capital on the coast can make it prone to attacks through sea. Also, it would be difficult to administrate the whole country from the coast, especially if the country is big, like Brazil. Between 1763 and 1960, the capital of Brazil was Rio de Janeiro on the southeast coast. Rio is an iconic city, the main cultural hub of Brazil, and it rightly fitted as their capital. But in 1955, the newly elected president, Juscelino Kubitschek, I hope I pronounced that correctly, decided that the capital of Brazil should be shifted to the interior of the country. The intention was to develop the underdeveloped inner regions of Brazil. A capital in the center of the country would result in better governance and also help to populate the inner parts of the country. So, a new city was built from scratch between 1956 and 1960. This planned city was named as Brasilia. Brasilia lies in the heart of Brazil, much further away from all the important cities on the southeast coast like Rio and Sao Paulo. There are many more other examples of capital relocations, like how India's capital was shifted from Calcutta to Delhi during British Raj, or how the capital of Turkey was changed from Istanbul to Ankara in 1923. Also, a future capital change is possible in Iran. The capital of Iran, Tehran, lies on about 100 fault lines and may experience a catastrophic earthquake in the future. So the government is studying for places near Qom and Isfahan for a new capital. But some Iranians think that the change in capital is to avoid protests against the government, similar to what Myanmar did. But some countries have two capitals. Currently, there are 15 countries which have more than one capital. One of them is Malaysia, which has two capitals. One is Kuala Lumpur and the other is Putrajaya. This was done because Kuala Lumpur had become overcrowded and politically congested as the only capital of Malaysia. So the government decided to build a new capital 33 kilometers south of Kuala Lumpur named Putrajaya. Then there is one country with 3 capitals. South Africa is the only country in the world to have not 1, not 2, but 3 capitals. The administrative capital is Pretoria, the legislative capital is Cape Town, and the judicial capital is Bloemfontein. Even though Johannesburg is the largest city in South Africa, it is still not one of the 3 capitals of the country. Well, at this point you might be thinking that every country has at least one capital, right? Actually no. Some small countries like Hong Kong, Monaco and Singapore are classified as city-states where the nation itself is the capital. And then there is this country called Nauru in the Pacific Ocean which has no official capital since there are no cities in the country. So there is no exact criteria for deciding a capital city. It all depends on various factors, the most important of them being strategic location, political, economic, cultural importance as well as historical significance.